everyone's time. We'll get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Ward. I am one of 17 counselors in the Office of Admission at Providence College, and excited to welcome you all this evening to our brief webinar on what it means to be a quote-unquote pre-law student or take full support of the pre-law advising at Providence College, as it is not a full major on our campus, but talk through just kind of that academic advising role that we have available for all of our students. I am joined tonight by Dr. Paul Herron, who is the pre-law advisor, as well as an associate professor of political science on campus, who is a phenomenal resource for students, both thinking about law school, those who are actively going through the process, but want to Dr. Herron, give you the chance to introduce yourself and kind of explain a little bit more about your role and ways in which students may take advantage of your advising. And students, please do send some questions through the Q&A function down at the bottom of the screen. Want to make this as interactive as possible for all of you and get all of your questions answered. But Dr. Herron, if you want to introduce yourself.
Good to see everybody. Well, not really, but I'm glad you're here.
They're there, I
So,
promise.
my name is Paul Herron. I teach in the political science department. I've been at Providence College almost 10 years, and I run the pre-law program. Just a little as a way of background about me. I I studied history as an undergraduate, and then I went to law school. During law school, I had experiences working for a federal judge, for a state judge, in the Senate Judiciary Committee in Washington, D.C., and ultimately took a job at a large law firm in Boston. I did not like working in a large law firm, and I left and got a Ph.D. in politics. Um, I teach classes on uh, the kind of intersection of law and American politics. I teach constitutional law, civil liberties, the American Supreme Court. Um, I also have an interest in Southern politics, and you know, my teaching interests are a little bit on the side of my pre-law advising duties, just because I work with students from across the entire campus. There are a lot of political science majors who end up going to law school, but there are a lot of business majors and English and history and even bio and chem. So I work with everybody across campus. Um, and I think that's a
Yeah, that's perfect. And actually, the perfect transition into one of the first questions that's come through, and honestly, one that I get at college fairs a lot. We'll have students come up and say, I want to go to law school or I want to study pre-law, and talking through that advising piece, and then always reminding them that they still have to have a core major on campus. So the student is asking what majors can participate in the program. And you started to just answer that, but if you want to go through that a little further.
Yeah, I mean the pre-law program at Providence College kind of builds on the liberal arts mission of Providence College. It's an advising program. It's not a major, it's not a minor, it's not a series of classes. I teach classes that are about law. Many of my classes are about law, but there are also classes in the business school that are connected to law. There are classes in psychology and English and history. There are lots of departments that have classes that are kind of connected to law. Um, so you don't, there's not a major requirement. There's not a minor requirement. I work with students from across the college.
Yeah.
And as a follow-up, people often ask me, well, what should my major be? Um, and my kind of general advice for people who are kind of starting out at college is to study the things that you are interested in, because you will do better and you will enjoy it more. The what you're learning in college for the most part, especially in the liberal arts, is not necessarily a set of facts or a set of, kind of specifics from a certain area, but you're learning critical thinking and research and writing and all these other skills that transfer over to law school, whether you're learning those by studying political science and thinking about the way government works, or if you're reading Shakespeare in the English department, you can get the kind of some of the same skills. So usually I tell people to kind of study the thing they're interested in because that will, you know, you'll have better outcomes in terms of your grades and your experience. And to work hard on your writing. And that's, that's something that you can do in most majors. And with the Civ program, there's a lot of writing that's kind of required as a baseline for PC students. But, show up to the writing center a few days before your assignments due. Kind of think carefully about those things because it'll help in law school.
Yeah, you've shared with our office before too that exact concept of you have to go to college first, no matter what. So study the things that you're going to enjoy the most for those 4 years. Students, I am a PC alumna and took our psych and law class during my 4 years, and it was by far one of my favorite courses. So again, those law classes do extend across a number of different programs. Great question about the advisory program, when it starts. Is it freshman year? Is it later? And do you mind kind of explaining the difference of your role as a political science professor and maybe some advising versus the pre-law side advising?
Sure. I mean, the pre-law advising program, I think the best way to think of it is a resource at your disposal. It's me. I'm a former lawyer. I've worked with students on, thinking about whether they want to go to law school, thinking about what it's like to be a lawyer, thinking about the application process to law school for a long time now. So, really the program is, you know, it's me. So if you want help with the process, or you're thinking about law school, or you're thinking about what internship should I try to get, or do you have any ideas about classes that I might take, or those kinds of things. Those are the things that I end up doing a lot. In the fall, I spend a lot of time with seniors and with alums who are working on their applications. I'm helping people with personal statements. I'm making sure that they got everything together that they need to get together to apply. Um, so, the program is kind of accessible whenever you want to take advantage of it. So every fall I have some number of freshmen that want to, I have a Canvas is the way we organize classes on campus. I have a Canvas group. I sign people up for my Canvas group. I don't bombard people with emails, but if I hear about an interesting event on campus, or I'm hosting an event, or if there's something that I need to share, I can get in touch with everybody all at once. Um, and then I'll have meetings with freshmen often when they arrive and they say, "Well, what do I do now?" And usually I say, college, right? Like do college. Like don't get so worried about the next step. But I'm always happy to have those conversations. Some people want to meet with me periodically during the 4 years that they're at Providence College. Some people don't really reach out to me until they have some really specific thing that they're trying to figure out, whether it be a study abroad program, or a specific internship they're looking at. Some people don't talk to me until they decide and they want to start the application process. And some people never talk to me and go through Providence College and apply to law school and go to law school. So it's really kind of up to you individually what you want to make of the program. I work with the Providence College student group, the Pre-Law Society. I'm the faculty advisor for them. I work with the mock trial kids who are very active right now. Um, so, there are lots of kind of places you can find a home if you're interested in law school. But my kind of general advice, usually if it's freshman or sophomore year, is to not get too caught up in the next step, because college is a kind of wonderful experience. And the main thing you need to be doing if you're thinking about law school, grad school, or trying to get a job is working hard and doing well, because that's what's going to kind of open the doors for you.
Absolutely, very well said. And that kind of jumps into a few of the questions that have been asked as well. One specifically, I'm not positive if you're going to know the answer, but hypothetically, if a student wanted to study abroad, are there specific law classes that would transfer? So do you know of
Well,
any
there are no
programs that offer law-based classes?
there. I mean, so there are no there's no like the pre-law program is not a major
Right.
or minor, so there are no law classes that you would be taking at PC for a law major or minor, right? You would be like a political science major, and maybe you take some law classes through that, or maybe you're a sociology major and you take some law classes through that. So the classes in study abroad or the experiences in study abroad that are kind of primarily you're kind of figuring out what's happening within the department where you're a major. Now, there are students who do all kinds of different internships and classes while they're abroad that are directly connected to law. I've had a bunch of students who work for lawyers in other countries or work in a parliament or work in a whole variety of spaces that they're working under lawyers or learning from lawyers in wherever it is that they're studying. But there's not a set of classes that are connected to law through me.
Yeah, that second half was very helpful to hear. I'll have to pick your brain about it at some point too. We do have a question about the Washington, D.C. program,
Oh,
if you don't mind
I
talking
run
about
that
it too.
too.
You do it all.
Go ahead.
Just in general, could you explain
Oh,
it?
what is the Washington
Yeah.
semester program? So the Washington semester program I mean, it's study abroad, but it's in America, right? You spend a semester in Washington, D.C. at American University. I've been in charge of the program for a few years now. It's kind of a nice piece for me because I grew up part of my life in Washington, and I went to American as an undergraduate. So I've had a lot of experience, not just with the school, but also with internships in Washington, D.C. In my own history. So it's a great program. It's nice to be in charge of a program where students are always kind of happy with the experience. The way it operates is there's an internship component that you spend kind of 3 days a week working, and then the other 2 days are coursework. The internship is you have to get your own internship, right? They have a database of interested employers in Washington, D.C., which could be something very traditional, like working on Capitol Hill for a senator's office or working for a member of the House of Representatives. But then any other kind of organization that you could imagine that has a presence in Washington, D.C. I've had students work for prisoners' rights organizations, work for lobbying firms of a variety of kind of different focuses. It's just a really great opportunity to not just to go work in DC, but to go through the application process in a kind of low stakes environment where you have a bunch of people helping you figure out how to write your cover letter, how to would pick which jobs you want to apply to, go through some interview skills. You get a kind of it's like a dry run for when you graduate. So students, work a variety of internships, and then the coursework is it's kind of easiest to attach that coursework to political science. But often sociology and history and global studies will count some of those classes. You can also take classes at American while you're there. If say you're a management major and you need to do some specific class, you could figure out taking something at American. The classes that are attached to the program are they're a kind of different kind of class, which I think is valuable because they take advantage of being in Washington, D.C. They'll bring in speakers from who've worked in government or are currently working in government to talk to the class. They'll sometimes hold class, on Capitol Hill, say we're going to all meet down at the courthouse today, and it's more kind of experiential, not to knock what I do, but it's not as much like read this and then come to class and we'll have a conversation about it. It's more using Washington, D.C. as a classroom. So that's been a really kind of satisfying program to be attached to for me, and I highly recommend it for anyone who's thinking about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I will also put a plug. Our capital area alumni group is one of the more active ones across the country too. So you'll have those alums right in your backyard to help with all of that as well.
I just had lunch with an alum who was at campus who was on campus yesterday, who's in DC and was asking me, "Hey, you got to make sure you connect me up with the students that are going to
Oh,
be in
awesome.
DC next
That's
semester."
perfect.
It's the alumni network at PC is really nice. It's as someone who runs a couple of programs, if I need to reach out and bring people in or get some help, it's always the answer is always yes. So it's a nice feature of the college.
That's perfect. I'm not sure if this student is asking how many students are in the DC program or take advantage of your advisorship. Could you tackle
So
both?
I can tell you both. In the DC program, we can send 14 students a year. In the past, sometimes we send just a few. This fall, there are 9 students there. In the spring, there are going to be 4 more. So we're butting right up against the limit. My honest preference would be that we don't get 50 applications for 14 spots. My preference is that we get 14, right? And that everybody who wants to go can go.
Yep.
And that's generally worked out in the past. In the advising program, I don't know how to tell you how many people I have in the advising program. I have I have a couple of hundred students on the Canvas group, but some of them sign up for the Canvas group and I never hear from them.
Great.
And then some students I talk to, especially people who are in the application process, I talk to a couple of times a week, it feels like
Sure.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of students who are involved, who are connected to the pre-law advising program. They take advantage of meeting with me at kind of varying degrees. But I certainly, I also help run events. We'll bring in alumni to talk about their experiences. I work with the Career Center to do a careers in law and government event every winter, right when we get back from the winter break, where we bring in alumni who are kind of not all lawyers, but a lot of lawyers. I bring in sometimes law school admissions officers to talk about the admissions process. Um, I run a personal statement workshop, sometimes 2 personal statement workshops in the fall with the Writing Center, which is an amazing resource at PC. Um, and so there are a kind of variety of ways that you can kind of access the program that aren't just meeting with me
Yeah.
and talking with me.
That's perfect. Thank you. There is a question asking if you're kind of able to advise students on what type of lawyer they may want to be in the future or talk through that advice process. Is that necessary before you get to law school? That's my own ignorance coming out. Kind of
I
that
mean,
piece of it.
I I think I have a pretty broad knowledge about how people practice law. I know lots of lawyers. I'm connected with people I went to law school with, but but there's so many different things, right? That it's pretty rare that I mean, I guess I can talk through things and we can kind of brainstorm, but my honest answer is that most people go to law school, even those people who are kind of sure that they want to do a specific area of law, and they end up doing something a little bit different. I really encourage students who are going to apply for law school and go to law school to have a plan for why they want to go to law school. But that doesn't include having your whole path figured out and knowing exactly what kind of law you want to practice. Usually I'll tell freshmen and sophomores that they ought to think about taking time between college and law school, work for a year or two. One of the things that you can do during that time is work in law and get an idea of, what it is that you might want to do and if you want to do it. That's another kind of useful piece about internships as well, is that you want to use internships. Internships should not be, um, credentials that you're trying to amass on your resume. They should be experiences that you can then take away, you know, for good or for bad, right? If you work at an organization, or you work in government, or you work at a law firm, and you really like it, that can be a great kind of help in figuring out what it is that you want to do. If you don't like it, it can also be helpful, right? Then you can not do that. So yeah, I I'm I always try to help people think about, what the possibilities are for practicing law, but I'm also, there are limits to my own knowledge, and there's also uh, other ways that people can access that through experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with sometimes no's are more important than yeses.
Yeah.
Um, you just have to have the experience. These two kind of go together of are there law schools that Providence is specifically partnered with, and where do you find the majority of grads going to law school? Is it New England based? Is it throughout the country? Kind of those two coming together.
So we have an agreement with Catholic Law School in Washington. It's just based on if you have a certain GPA and you have a certain LSAT, there's a kind of you don't have to go all the way through the admissions process. You can get a kind of automatic admission. That's not something I've had a lot of students take advantage of. It's not a special, they don't have a discounted set of standards for PC students, so it's not something that really that I've had a lot of uh, you know that I've used a lot. In thinking about where students go to law school, mostly Boston and New York. Um, and that's a reflection of where most Providence College students are from. But I've had students go to lots of different places, right? I've had students go off to law school in Texas, in South Carolina, in Louisiana, in Tennessee, in you know, so I've had a student from Chicago wanted to be back in Chicago, and they're going to law school in Chicago. So, I think there are some schools that kind of know PC better because there are lots of students go there. I would say lately it seems to be, kind of Boston area, and though New York is always there's always a strong presence of PC students kind of heading to New York. Sometimes DC,
Yeah,
but that's the that's the kind of usual location.
that's wonderful. Dr. Herron, thank you so much for joining me tonight. This has been so incredibly helpful for me, but students, I hope that you have found it helpful for yourselves as well. I know there's a couple of questions that we haven't tackled yet, but we will follow up by email with those responses just to stay on interest of everybody's time tonight. But I want to thank you for joining me. And students, good luck with the application process and the rest of the admission cycle. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out, but hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks, everyone.